Okay, so the last thing we'll talk about today are CSS JavaScript styling frameworks, front-end frameworks. I don't know, a bunch of different names. But real quick, let's just talk about, let's add like one style to our HTML page here. Just a quick review about how CSS works and how CSS selectors work, which will help us understand what we're going to do next. So I'm going to add a header here. Call it to do. Cool. Let's come over here. Okay, so we have to do there. Let's just target this and I don't know, change the color of the text. Pretty simple. Who could talk me through that real quick?
We need to create a CSS file.
Yeah, we should create a CSS file. We don't have to. We don't have to, but we should create a CSS file. So we will do touch styles.css. And then what's my next move?
Link in the head.
I got to link it, right? So just like I did with my script tag, basically everything ends up coming into my HTML file at some point, even though I'm writing it in separate files, which makes it so much easier to develop and handle and expand. At the end of the day, it's all getting sucked into this HTML file, right? So let's put that up here, and it is, this one is a link, and I think you need to do type. Didn't we figure this out before? Style sheet, and then href equals /styles.css. Cool. I'm going to come over here, and let's, I think also we want to avoid, by and large, targeting things by their actual tag. So let's just give it let's just give it a class, just so we can look at the class. And we'll call it I hate this, heading. Okay. And then we'll come over here, and we'll do, what is it, dot my heading? Right, dot is for what? And what is for ID? Hashtag. And we'll just say color, no. Red. Over here, we'll refresh, and it won't work. So that's it for today. What the hell? Why?
That summed up my entire.
Sorry, Holly. What were you saying? Are you sure? Okay. Class styles.
On the styles.
That might be the problem. That could be it.
Yeah.
Hold on. Too many people are talking to me once. Too many people once. All right, let's try this first. Try one thing at a time. So if you try to debug by changing 10 things at once, I mean, that's just not a good idea. Okay, so that didn't work. Let's just go back to this. For now, what was the next thing we wanted to try?
I'm not sure what it is exactly.
This. And what is it? It's REL.
I see. I thought it was at the beginning.
I always just write link and tab, and it does everything I need.
I always copy these backwards.
Let's look at this one.
I think it has a relative.
Oh, okay, wait. It's not type. It's rel here. That's the problem.
Yeah, like if you write the
then we'll save
tab
this.
name, you write your halfway ready, you write tab.
Check that out. Ooh, okay, yes.
Instead of just hard coding it.
I accept your well-earned round of applause. Thank you. Okay.
Try something else.
So I changed this. It was not type. It was REL. Cool. So just wanted to do this quick review, right? What do we need to do? We need to link styles, right? And what happens is the browser will read the styles that I wrote that and I can access I usually access my elements by adding classes and IDs, right? That's how I add styles, right? So if we actually went over here and I changed this. Oh no, sorry. I'll keep that as an ID. But if I do class, my heading here, I'm not sure if this will work. No, but you get what I'm saying. Say, let's just make another one of these. Everything with that class, right? We'll get those styles. So that's basically all you need to understand to start understanding how the next thing we're going to talk about works, right? Just make sure you understand. I can add those classes anywhere once I define, and I don't have to define that rule once. Okay, so styling. You might have noticed that there are things that just kind of exist on a lot of web pages. Most of them have a Navbar, right? Lots of them will have like a big giant ass picture, right? And then like some text over it. Then you scroll down and there are these chunks. And the more we work with web pages, and probably already started looking at this, and then especially when we get to React, you'll start to see, just when you look at a web page, you'll start to see the pieces that it's built out of, right? And they're usually these like blocks, containers of information. You'll start to see what, and now that you know, like I shouldn't repeat code, you know, all these things, you'll know like, oh man, there's got to be something that is doing that same code over and over and over again, and just changing like the picture is different in each one, right? Like let's see, Amazon has good, like this, this and this are basically like these big boxes, right? So there's probably one piece of code that makes this giant box, and then like floods or like funnels in like, okay, this one's gonna have 4 pictures, this one's gonna have 1 picture, but you can start to see the sections, right? So whenever there's something that gets repeated over and over again, programmers generally try to build a tool that just does that for them, right? And so that is also the case for styling and laying out, especially laying out, but also styling web pages, right? So we can do it all with vanilla CSS the way we've been doing it before, but by and large, if you want to do stuff quickly, someone probably already figured out a better way to do it. You can also use these like frameworks, right? So Bootstrap is one. Google has one called Materialize. There's another one. There's a bunch of them. There's a bunch. Foundation is a popular one. And it's really up to personal preference and what you're trying to accomplish, what you're going to use. Bootstrap is one of the most popular, so that's why we're going to review it. Not that I think you should use it. It's just like if you're going to come across one, it'll probably be this. But if we go over Bootstrap today and then you look at Materialize and you're like, that looks like more fun, then use that one, right? Use whatever one you want. But basically, the way these work is we load in style sheets that Bootstrap already wrote for us, right? So Bootstrap has established some opinionated ways that it thinks websites should work, so that's one. But it's also tried to simplify stuff like layout and I guess styling in general. So the way we use Bootstrap, we can use it a couple of different ways. Let's actually just use this file. Sorry, you have it open. But let's start from scratch. Oops. So I hit quit. That was cool. That's not what I meant to do. Yeah, definitely starting from scratch. Go away, go away, go away. Okay, so I'm going to have my new HTML file. Now, I want to use, basically all I'm doing is, like we wrote this. When I import Bootstrap, I'm just importing like pages and pages and pages of CSS selectors and definitions and classes and some JavaScript as well, right? All that type of stuff. And so the way that I do that is kind of the same way, right? I can do it I can download the whole Bootstrap library and I can put it in a file right here and just link it directly. But Bootstrap is huge and you generally don't want to do that. The way we're going to do it is using something called the CDN. Does anybody know what that is? CDN stands for Content Delivery something. CDN. Content Delivery Network. Nice, nice. All this means is Bootstrap has all its files hosted on a server somewhere. and I just make a HTTP request, and they give it back to me, right? Put it right in my file. So I can do that super easily with the CDN. If we go to Bootstrap, and this is how most of these things will work. If at the end of this lecture you get nothing else, you're not going to be an expert on Bootstrap, because that's not the point. The point of this is just when I find a new thing that I want to use, a new library, like how do I get up and running with it, right? And not feel intimidated or overwhelmed by it. Most things that I want to use will have good documentation. I can click on Get Started here, and it'll walk me through, like, I can just post this link here. Here's all the JavaScript links I would need. They give me a template and all that. I can also, I could download the whole thing, like I said, but we're just going to use Bootstrap CDN right here. And it says for the CSS, that is really frustrating. I can just copy this, come up here, put this here, there. And you can see that this is a link to a style sheet, but instead of a relative path, it has an HTTP, what's it? Why can't I think of anything? You know what I mean? Web address, a link, thank you, a link, thank you. That it will use to go retrieve the styles. I can also, Bootstrap comes with a lot of like interactivity, so like you can tell Bootstrap, like when someone clicks on this picture, flip it or something like that. Like it has stuff like that built in. If I want all that stuff, I can copy all of these JavaScript files, and then these go at the bottom. So same exact idea as what we were doing before. We're just using code someone else wrote, right? Okay, so now that I have this, I'm just going to show you really quick about like what it looks like and how we do it. Now that I have Bootstrap in, I can start to look at, I have some different things that I can accomplish here. One thing is Bootstrap is really helpful for layout. Now this came out before CSS Grid, so it was actually like one of the easiest ways to get like a grid system set up if you wanted to do that. Now that Grid exists, it's up to you, right? Use Bootstrap. It works a little bit differently than Grid, or use Grid. The result is the same. So I can look at the layout. I can look at the content. Components is where you're probably going to spend a lot of your time, right? So it has these different components. So here is an alert, and I get all these selections, right? These are all Bootstrap alerts that I can, styles that I can pull in. Let's look at another one. Buttons. Here are all different types of Bootstrap buttons that are available to me. I'll show you how to do these in a minute. Cards are very popular. You've probably seen these all over the internet, right? There's an image here, a bunch of stuff down here. I'm sure you've seen these on web pages before. Let's look at one more, is the carousel. All this stuff is built in. I just need to steal the code for it and then input or mess with it to make it unique to what I want to do. This whole thing works on classes, right? So I can take any element that I want, and as long as I as long as I've imported Bootstrap and then add the appropriate class to the element, it will take on those styles. And you can, and I don't know if we went over this, but you can add multiple classes to an element very easily. And you see that right here. You just put a space in between them. So this div right here has a class carousel and a class slide. These are two separate classes, right? And you can apply them at the same time. So these are all different things. Let's just take a look at, I'm going to copy and paste. It's going to be overwhelming, but we'll walk through it. Let's just look at a navbar. And if you've ever tried to make a navbar in regular CSS, it's extremely frustrating. It's extremely frustrating. So I'm going to paste this whole thing in here, right? So let's just take a look at a little bit of what we got here. So we have a nav element, and it has the class navbar, navbar-extend LG, all these different things, right? And these are all Bootstrap classes. Going all the way down, we have Bootstrap classes. And what you'll usually see is you'll have a parent class like navbar, and then as we scroll down, you'll have like nav item, right? And Bootstrap is smart, and it'll know like everything inside that has nav item, I'm making a navbar, right? And it'll lay everything out for us. So let's load this and just see what we get. Let's do this. This is all for you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Look at that. We get this beautiful navbar, right? A little generic, so we can mess with it. We can change colors. We can do other stuff. It has a drop down. this search that goes nowhere, etc. Right? All this with just the Bootstrap styling. Are there any questions about how we accomplish this? No? What's up? Yeah, it's just copy and pasting. For a lot of people, that's all styling is. Some people are really, really good at it and get better at it, and that's great. But that's the basic idea behind Bootstrap and how all these things work, right? If I wanted to override some of these stylings, I can do that. I can still have my own style sheet. I just have to put it after the Bootstrap one. Why won't anything work? Okay. If I put like link, rel, same thing. Style sheet, href. I call it styles, not CSS. So CSS is Cascading Stylesheets, and it will always, the style that's added will always be like the lowest one down, right? So if I tell every single H1 on my page to be 100 pixels high, right? But then I also target one of them with a class that says no, be 50 pixels high, it will be 50 pixels high, right? It will always, it goes down, like element, then ID, then class, I think, and then it's also the nested nature of things. So the more specific you are, the more the better off you'll be targeting what you want to target. So yeah, if I wanted to write my own styles that overrode any, I would put them in my own style sheet, and I would just make sure to include it last. It would always take the last thing it found. Cool. You can go through, there's more in the write-up, just kind of walks you through a couple more of the more common ones. Cards, I showed you how to use the grid system, which is very similar to CSS Grid. That's about it, how to add custom styles. That's really all I wanted to go over. So none of these like go to anything, but yeah, so that's Bootstrap. Like I said, there's other ones. You can look for ones that have their own kind of style. You can look for one, and feel free to use these when you're styling. They can really make things a lot quicker. Any other questions about anything for me to go over? All right, let's look at what you're going over today. Stop it. Oh my God, why does it do that?